Hey everybody, how you doing? It's lunchtime, and you know what that means. It is lunchtime talk with Steve. Today we actually have an author for you. We have Barbara Freeman, and she wrote a book called Mirror Mirror. We're going to talk to her about that book because I think it's actually it's something that's really needed in today's environment, and it's been needed all along, but more so what we're seeing today. So let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and share it out with your friends, with your favorite groups, with all these different things, and then we'll get Barbara in just a moment. All right, guys, go ahead and do you do share it out. All right, and here we are. We are back. All right, so today we have Barbara Freeman on with us. Let's go ahead and bring Barbara in. Oh, up, there we go. Hey, Barbara, how you doing?
Good. Good afternoon, Stephen.
All right. So go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers so that they'll know who Barbara is, and then we're gonna jump into Mirror Mirror. All right.
All right. I'm Barbara Freeman. I was an educator in Omaha, Nebraska. I taught seventh grade and counselor for middle school and spent the last 19 years as a guidance counselor for one of the largest high schools in Omaha, Nebraska, called Omaha North High. Uh, Currently, I'm a retired educator.
Wait,
I've been retired
Barbara.
about 8 years now.
Hey, Barbara.
Yes.
You're breaking up.
Yes.
Are you on your Wi-Fi or because you're breaking up. You're going in and out.
Oh, okay. My grandson's seeing if he can make the repairs here.
Okay. And let me know when But the
Okay.
yeah. Do you have a? Can you go live on your laptop instead of your phone?
Okay. I'm on the laptop.
Oh, you are? Okay, so it's probably
Uh,
your Wi-Fi. I don't know, but you're it's actually a little bit better now. So yeah, so go ahead. You said
oh,
you were at the largest high school in Nebraska.
yes, and it's predominantly African American high school, and I taught second grade for 7 years. So I've I've already worked with most levels of students or young people, and my major theme for my book Mirror Mirror was related to second through sixth grade, and it's
Hmm.
mainly to build the self-esteem and confidence of young people. And uh, today, when we watch commercials and look at magazines, we mainly see the majority as featured as beautiful people or the main actresses. Well, Mirror Mirror relates to the skin color of African American children, and it teaches them to feel validated by their own skin color. And dark skin is just as beautiful as chocolate, as cocoa color or amber color. And Tina Thomas, the main character in my book, she is a dark skinned young lady, and
Hmm.
when the mirror actually comes to her, it shakes and shimmies and it raps and asks her who is the most beautiful young lady that she can recall. But the mirror tells her to look deep into her heart. Well, she thinks about commercialism and what
Hmm.
she sees on TV and the images that she sees and then she projects as beautiful. So she thought, well, it must be that new blonde actress. She's young, she's beautiful, she has blue eyes and long blonde hair that bounces as she walks or as she speaks. But the mirror tells her, no, no, you're wrong. He said, look deep into your own heart. He said, when you know something about your own history, then I'll come back to you and ask you the question again. Well, luckily, she meets up with her neighbor, and her neighbors are as a retired couple, a retired Black history teacher, Mrs. Payton, and her husband, who's retired from the Navy, and they often sit on their porch and watch the kids as they play. Well,
Hmm.
Tina actually rode her bicycle for the first time without the training wheels,
Hmm.
and she went to wave and say hello to Mr. and Mrs. Payton, and she tumbles over on her bike right into the rose bushes.
Hmm.
And the Paytons come running to help her up. And as they're helping her and talking to her, they tell her that she's one of the kindest kids that they've observed in the neighborhood. And
Hmm.
Tina has really never heard anything about herself. And she asked, well, why do you think I'm so kind? And they say, well, you always speak, you respect adults, and we watch you with other children, and you're always so kind and so fair. Well, then Tina really begins to feel warm inside. She
Hmm.
feels that somebody recognizes that she's a good person. And Miss Peyton goes on to tell her, she says, well, if it's okay with your parents, she says, I want to teach you a little bit about some very creative Black historians. And I want to teach you about some of the females that are outstanding in history. So Tina was very agreeable to that. And her parents said, sure. So Tina spent a couple of days at Mrs. Peyton's house drinking lemonade and eating homemade cookies and learning about some very outstanding and courageous leaders that helped make our history is what it is today. Well, Tina was very concerned about her skin color and her short cropped hair when she looked in
Hmm.
the mirror. And she learned about Madam C.J. Walker, who had so many hair products. and that Madam C.J. Walker, she lived in a mansion. And she saw some of the pictures of where Madam C.J. Walker lived. And she learned that Madam C.J. Walker went from door to door selling her
Mm-hmm.
products. And by the end of the 1800s, Madam C.J. Walker was a millionaire, which
Mm-hmm.
was a fascinating thing to Tina to think that an African American woman could could come to aspire to her goals and her dreams. And Tina started looking at her skin in a little different way. She learned about Harriet Tubman and how brave Harriet Tubman was, and how she would free slaves, take them to Boston and other places where the slaves were free.
Well, let me
Tina,
ask you a question. Have
sure.
you have you ever thought about getting these books in the schools?
Yes. Well, the school where I'm at in Omaha, Nebraska, it's already approved for the Omaha public school system. It's on the list so the librarians can choose this book. And there's very few multicultural books available. So I know that in some schools here and also in Little Rock, Tennessee, and some in Houston, Texas, public schools are using the book. But, I'm marketing and I'm trying to get it out to more schools. And
Mm-hmm.
it has to be approved by, it has to go through an approval system. Each school has a different process.
Right.
And when it's approved, then it goes on the list, and the librarians in each school can select to use the book. And students who reviewed the book identify with the book and with Tina and with the outcome of the story. So
So how can my viewers out there, how can they get this book in their schools? How can they,
they can
go
they
ahead.
can oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead. Yeah, you're gonna answer. How can they get it in the schools?
They can request it. They can request it to the libraries, and it's available on Amazon. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when people order three or more books, they can call Laredo Publishing Company, and
Mm-hmm.
the editor will give them a discount to get the books into the schools and the stores.
Yeah, and I
So,
actually have it on the website. So if they want to, they can just go out to the website to lunchtimetalkwithsteve.com and they can see it there.
oh, great. Yes. And
Yeah.
I get great reviews when I go into the schools and I read the story. Uh, and sometimes I take my dog along with me, little Rascal, and
Really?
he and Rascal also appears in the book. He does not have a major part, but you'll
Mm-hmm.
see him throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably the best part of the book is the second time when the mirror comes to Tina, and
Mm-hmm.
Tina feels really good about herself, and she likes her dark skin, and she feels that her lips remind her of African queens, and she
Mm-hmm.
has her brown eyes look like they're mysterious because they're filled with the majestic memories of all the historians that she learned about. And Mrs. Peyton told her that sometimes when you learn about your own history, it
Mm-hmm.
makes you blossom. It starts like a seed inside of you, and it blossoms out where everybody can see your beauty. And the history that she learned about, she loved, and it made her feel really great about herself. And her preference for dark chocolate skin, uh, it comes very obvious to her because she has beautiful dark skin.
So
And
what made you decide to write this book, and how long has that idea been in your head before you actually put pen to paper?
well, the idea had been there about 10 or 15 years when I was, because I was working. Well, when I was
Mm-hmm.
working, I was so busy. I didn't really have, I didn't feel like I had enough time. And
Hmm.
but after I retired, I have more time to do the things that I dreamed about doing. And one of the things that inspired me to write the book, I went to an elementary school, and I was working as the counselor there because their counselor was out on maternity leave. And when I
Hmm.
got there, there were three fifth grade girls waiting for me. The teacher told me that they didn't feel good about themselves and they thought to be beautiful, they had to be white with long blonde hair. So
Mm.
me and the students talked, and then I got them each a book.
Hmm.
So I got them a notebook, and then I bought magazines, Essence, Ebony, all the magazines I could think of. And then each time I came, they would look for African American ladies with a good sense of style, so they could put pictures of someone who they thought was had a good sense of style, and we worked a lot with self-esteem and confidence. And then they had their own little notebook to take home and think about the things that we talked about. We did hairstyles, clothing, we did
Hmm.
outstanding people, and I thought about it and I thought there's a great need for not just these fifth and sixth grade girls, for a lot of young people to identify with their own beauty and to just feel validated and good about themselves. That they're not just, a lot of times, maybe they're the only one or just a few in a classroom. And a lot of times they look around the classroom and there's no posters or pictures that they can identify themselves with. And this is important too, that they see people like themselves. That,
Definitely, yeah.
yes. And
So,
many times when I read this story, somebody said, "That's me. You wrote it about me." And I said, "Yeah, you." And there's many other young people who feel this way. And we talk
so,
about things. Yes.
so is there going to be a series to the book? Is this is there going to be
You
a
know,
part two or?
well, what I'm working on now are biographies. Uh, Tina Thomas learns about Black historians of color, and I would do
Hmm.
six females and six male biographies. And one of the biographies is about an 11-year-old girl from Oklahoma, Sarah Rector,
Hmm.
and she had oil wells at some land they mistakenly gave her. That
I
the
remember that story.
Yes, and she ended up living in Kansas City, and she still has a mansion there on 16th and Euclid in Kansas City, Missouri. But what was outstanding about Sarah is she felt the importance of education. She went to Tuskegee and she became a teacher. But what she would do would rent limousines, and those kids who lived a long way from school, she'd have the limousine driver take them to the schools and back. And I thought this would show kids also that you give back to the community when you earn or have a little bit of money. But she was wealthy at age 11, and that was only because her dad couldn't afford to pay the $30 a year to keep this land for Sarah. So Standard Oil asked if they could drill oil wells on there. And at the first drilling, they were able to make money. And she started off getting a check for $700 a month, and then it went up to like 12,000 a month. And at age 11, there were a lot of men, especially from Germany, writing letters asking if they could marry Sarah. But thankfully, Booker T. Washington and someone else from Tuskegee inspired her to go on to Tuskegee and get her education. And she married a young African American man who lived
Hmm.
in Kansas City, Missouri. They graduated from Lincoln High School. And I relate to that because I was born in Kansas City, Missouri, and I also
Hmm.
went to Lincoln High School. So, and to go back and see that property uh, makes me really feel good. So I thought that I would write about a few young people who
Hmm.
outstanding scientists and historians that young people can relate to, and then some of the main leaders that we're so proud of. So they'll have a variety of people to feel good about and to know that they made outstanding contributions to our history.
So, you said you had the idea for years. What made you decide that, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and do it? What made you decide to take the plunge or jump or however you want to phrase it?
Well, I think I thought about it and I had a lot less activities than I did during the school year. And I
Hmm.
thought, well, if ever I will do it, it will be now. But my first books were about my dog, Sugar. She happened she happened to be American Pit Bull. And I thought my experience with Sugar and our family's experience with Sugar has been nothing but wonderful. She was like a ray of sunshine in our lives. Uh, my son actually adopted Sugar, and uh, my husband and I took her in when she had an accident. She was hit by a car. So we took her in and we said we'd give her back after she had her surgery and was doing well. So we
Hmm.
took her in, and she was such a blessing to our household till we couldn't give her back. We said, well, we'll buy you guys another dog, but we're keeping Sugar. So we kept her until she was 13 years old. But
Mm.
many people came to our house and they would play with her. She'd bring a toy and she'd offer her paw for a shake shake, and she'd walk people to the door. And sometimes people would say, whatever kind of dog she is, I want a dog just like Sugar. And when I say she's a pit bull, people say, what? I said, yeah, she's just a pleasant dog. She loves people and she loved animals.
Hmm.
So I really wanted to I wanted to get the book out before Sugar passed. And she was sick. She was about 13 years old, which is a long life for a pit bull.
Hmm.
But I I got the story out. Her first one was Sugar, a princess pit bull, finds her family. And
Hmm.
then I noticed that a lot of times on intelligence scales, they did not include pit bulls when they measured intellect and intelligence and ability to follow directions and instructions. But I noticed in Washington, D.C., a lot of times they had pit bulls and huskies as police officer dogs. So I know
Really?
that they train well. Yes. So I decided to do some research. And the next book was called Super Smart Sugar. And it talked about the intelligence of dogs. And it even had some intelligence scales inside. Of course, Sugar had her own intelligence scale where you could measure to see if your dog or cat was equally as smart as Sugar. So those were my first two books, Sugar and Super Smart Sugar. And
Hmm.
then I decided, well, I've been thinking for years about the skin color. And so I decided, well, it's time for Tina Thomas, which is my niece,
Hmm.
the main character, to come out. And she was dark skinned. And she looked, in fact, Tina looked an awful lot like my character on Mirror Mirror. She had the two
Hmm.
little puffball ponytails. And and a lot of times when I take her and my niece Gina, and Gina is a month older than Tina, when I take them around when they were little, they say, "Oh, that one's pretty." They would be speaking of Gina because she has light skin and Tina had dark skin. And I would say,
Hmm.
"No, they're both pretty,"
Hmm.
because I want them both to feel good about themselves. So, anyways, I think that was in my thoughts too as I wrote the book, because at the end of the book, it talks about when the beautiful fall leaves fall, you
Hmm.
notice all different colors and all of them are beautiful. But for every leaf that falls, there's always a beautiful touch of brown in each leaf. So, yes, I kind of doted on the skin color a lot.
No, that's great because I mean, like you said, we really have to start to show our kids that every shade of black is beautiful, and we can't just wait until um society deems it as beautiful before we can start to celebrate. Because I mean, like, a couple years ago, what was the model, I can't remember her name now, but only when they gave her a L'Oreal or CoverGirl contract and everything, then we started to say, oh gosh, she's beautiful. but
Yeah,
really but really before that, we weren't saying that, and we can't just wait for that validation from society or from other groups before we can start to celebrate ourselves and celebrate who we are. Because I mean, every single person is beautiful. There's a beauty in everyone.
that's right.
So we really have to start to celebrate those things, and we can't wait for the validation from others before we celebrate it.
That's very true. And that's another thing. When I go into the classrooms, I play a game with them called the positive chair. And
Hmm.
if they got a chance to sit in the chair, the students could only say positive things about them. It could be
Mm.
about what they see on the outside, or if they know the student and they know the student is good at spelling, they could give them 1 minute to raise their hands and only say positive things. And
That's
then
good. I like that idea.
when the young person gets out of the seat, I say, "How did it feel to sit in a positive chair?" And they say, "Wonderful,
Mm.
magnificent. I didn't know there were so many good things about me." I think
That's a really
sometimes,
good idea. I like that idea.
oh, thank you, yes. And sometimes I give them brainstorming. They'll have a minute to try to think as many things as they can that they like about themselves. And I tell them that a lot of times, if you can think of a lot of things you like about yourself, at least three things, that means you
Hmm.
really feel good about yourself. And if you can say good things about other people, that's a great thing. But those people
Definitely.
who never have anything good to say about people, those are the people who really need to feel better about themselves. And the kids say, "Oh, yeah, that's true." So then they come up with so many things to say good about themselves and about other people. And usually they'll give me a compliment too. They'll say, "And you are a really nice person." And I said, "Well, thank you. You have to really feel good about yourself in order to say that." So, yeah.
So have you found that it's been making a positive impact in the kids? I mean, have you seen a big change in these kids, like from the time you start the program to the end?
Yes. And many times I get letters from the principal or from the
Mm.
teachers, and they'll name kids or they'll send me a little video or something of a young lady or something that said, "This is me. You were talking about me." And I really, yeah, and I really feel good about myself. Finally,
Mm.
somebody wrote a book about me, or the young people on the book cover look a lot like me. And I said, "Well,
Mm.
good. Yes. Yes.
That's good. That's awesome. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about, changing the next generation and helping the next generation to see the things that we didn't see. And I think that we need more of those conversations like what you're having with those kids.
Yeah.
Here in Broward County in our schools, we have what we call courageous conversation. And we're doing a lot of different things where we actually, kids are talking to kids, adults are talking to kids, but the biggest thing is listening to them. And I think that that's one of the things, because when a person sits in that chair and they listen and they hear the positive things about themselves, it's like, wow, you
Yeah.
know, because I
That,
mean, to some of these kids, that's the only time they hear positive things.
that's right.
I
That's
mean,
right.
you bring home a B and it's like you couldn't get an A. What?
Yeah, that's true.
And whereas you should say, "Wow, I'm proud of you. You got a B. That's awesome." And you don't, because what as parents, what we tend to do is we tend to rain on the kids' parade, and we don't realize how it brings that child down and make that child feel like, well, I mean, I tried my best and that wasn't good enough, so to hell with it. I'm not going to try again.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids actually do that. They just say no. They just give up. But those positive affirmation and the the things that they hear actually help to boost them up, and that's, I like that program. I like what you're saying. Now your book, it is available on Amazon.com, and it's available right on my website. I actually have the link right on lunchtimetalkwithsteve.com. They
All
can go
right.
there and just click on advertisers and they'll see you. um, I should start a book club page on my website or something. Because
Oh,
I have so far I have what, 4 books on there, of different
oh,
people that I interviewed. So I should start something like that.
that
That'd be
sounds
pretty cool.
interesting. Yes. Yeah. That's a great
um,
idea. I know as a counselor, when young people came in my office, and was in high school, the most important thing it seemed to be for me was to listen to whatever problem they had. A lot of times as adults, we think, well, they don't have any problems. Oh, I'm feeding them, I'm paying for their expenses. But their problems are very real to them. And when they
Definitely.
come in, I listen. And there's something in me that looks for the positive in everybody. And when I
Hmm.
listen to the young person, and let them explain why they happened or why they got in trouble and they had to come to the counselor's office. After I listen to them, I tell them, well, you have some pretty strong positive attitudes, and you know how to listen to people, and you know how to figure out what's wrong. I say, well, you have a good reasoning ability, or you have a good way of expressing yourself, and I know you can think things through. And then sometimes I ask them, well, what do you think needs to happen? And I let them come up with some ideas of what needs to happen. And I said, okay, now use some of your positive reasoning. And how would you relate this back to the teacher?
Hmm.
And I've had a lot of success, and I have a lot of young people, even after I've retired, who still friends or their wives and kids, or they still need me, so they're friends with our family. And holidays includes ex-students and my husband's ex-students, and
Your
it's
husband
really
was a
great.
teacher as well.
He was an elementary principal,
Okay.
and in fact he was the principal at one school where I was the second grade teacher. So
Hmm.
yeah, and he's got personality plus. He's real good with young people.
So
So
he was the boss at work, but you were the boss at home.
that's right. You got it.
I know
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yes. Yes.
So right now, what do you guys what do you have planned for the next book? I mean, when
Oh,
is that coming out? When are we going to see that one?
okay. I hope that with this pandemic that I have more time to work on this one. Plus,
Hmm.
I'm thinking of another one for a young man about second grade who has poor self esteem, and I'm
Mm.
thinking a male needs some uplifting and to feel good about himself. And I'm actually going to use my husband as the mentor because he was such a good principal. So in the book, he's going to like mentor the young man. At lunchtime, he used to take kids in and have lunch with them. He'd play ball before and after school and walk them home and things like that. So he's going to be the male mentor in the book. And I'm kind of thinking of some of the things I'm going to use for the young man to kind of uplift his self-esteem.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When people hear Omaha, Nebraska, I mean, I mean, maybe it's just me, but I think of cornfields, and I don't really,
That's
you
what
know,
most people say the same thing. They say, "Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know there were many of us in Nebraska."
I know.
I said, "Yeah." I said, "What do you think of Omaha?" Well, we always saw cornfields.
That's all you see on TV. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't think of some of the issues. I mean, well, I guess you'd have issues everywhere where it comes to social and social acceptance and things of that sort too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So you said that you were at one of the largest high schools.
Yes, it's called Omaha North. And in fact, it became a magnet school before I retired with
Hmm.
science and lots of projects. And the young people had an opportunity if they wanted to come to this high school toward the end, and it was predominantly black, but a
Hmm.
lot of majority young people chose to come there because of all the programs that we had and all the advanced college classes. So, really, it's still a thriving school. It's an excellent school. And now I think it's still predominantly black, but we have much more majority there now than we did before.
How large is that school? I'm just curious because when I hear some of these schools and compare them to Broward County, like a friend of mine, he is the superintendent in South Carolina in Piedmont, and he was saying that they have 5,000 students in their entire school district, and I'm thinking, wow, we
Oh,
have
okay.
we have some schools here that almost have just that in one school.
Oh, we have almost 50,000 here. Oh,
Yeah, we have what do we have? 200. I think we have 275,000 in Broward.
oh, Broward County. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Freeman? Do you know the number at North High? It was 2006 at one time.
2,500 is a
Yeah.
magnet school.
Yeah. And I told him it's a magnet school. Yeah. My husband says it's about 2,500 at Omaha
Wow.
North at
Wow.
alone.
That's a pretty big school. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Arl says one of my viewers, Arl Ferguson. He said he was born in Omaha.
Is that right?
Oh, wow. All right then.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days I'll come to Omaha for a visit. I don't know. I mean,
Yes.
what is
We'd
there
love
in
to have you.
Omaha? Hey, how you doing?
He said we'd love to have you.
Oh, definitely. I mean, what is there to do in Omaha? I'm curious.
Well, besides having one of the better school systems, there's a lot of steakhouses for
Ah.
people because we're known for beef too, not just corn, but for beef. And a lot of good churches and I guess a lot of people come for the races and
Number
the
one zoo in the world.
yeah, that's right.
Really?
The zoo
Yeah.
is one of the top zoos, and our museums are wonderful too. Uh, we have the Joslin Art Museum. It's
Hmm.
not only a beautiful place, but they have a lot of different events to come and take part in, and they have a nice restaurant that serves good food there
Yeah.
too.
We have a lot of people say, when I say I'm from Omaha, because I'm originally from Georgia, they always
Hmm.
say, is there any black folks up there?
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, so you guys are like the only two black people, right?
Oh, oh, we got about we all got almost 60,000 black people in Omaha.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
yeah.
That. What part of Georgia are you from?
I'm from Athens, Athens,
Okay.
Georgia. Home of the dogs, the Bulldogs. Hey, I went to Tuskegee and I was recruited up here to come and teach. And
Mhm.
so when I came here, I said I was going to stay 2 years, but it's been 55.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. All right. So you were in Tuskegee. You went to Tuskegee.
Yes, I did.
And you know there are a lot of famous people that went to Tuskegee. I believe wasn't it the Commodores went there, right?
Yes, Lionel Richie. Yeah.
Lionel Richie, and I think some of the other guys from the
Yes, all of
Commodores
them.
went there as well.
Where they started.
Yeah. And I believe Tom Joyner went there as well.
Yep, yep. Tom Joyner was there too. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's pretty
that's where I
cool.
went. That's where I got involved in the civil rights movement from Tuskegee. So yep.
So tell me then. So let me hear a little bit of the civil rights movement and things that you've done. Now this is becoming a story of both Freemans. We're going to do an interview of both Freemans.
Okay, when I first got to Tuskegee, we had a dean that was named Dr. Philip Petrain, Dr. Phillips, and he got us all involved in going out and the Black Belt counties in Alabama and registered students to vote,
Mhm.
registered people to vote because so many of them didn't want to vote, and so he got us involved in that. And so after that, Tuskegee was very instrumental in the civil rights movement. I was marched with Dr. Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael. I was involved in the Selma March. So we was very involved in so many things at Tuskegee, and that was in the '60s. So I'm a little old. Yeah, I graduated from Tuskegee in '66, and I came here in
Wow.
'66.
So you guys actually helped to find you founded the black population in
Well,
Omaha.
see,
Part of it,
in,
yeah.
in Omaha, see what happened. They had the packing houses at that time, and so
Mhm.
a lot of people from the South migrated here to work in the stockyards, and so you had a large population of black people that made a lot of money working in the stockyards, and
Mhm.
that's why so many came here was to work in the stockyards. We don't have those now, but that's how most of us got here through the
And
stockyard.
so what do you find like we see now all the different things that are going on around the country. We see the Black Lives Matter movement. We see the different things that are happening with racial injustice. What do you find the climate to be like in Omaha? What do you find as far as blacks and whites living together and the issues with the police? Are you finding that you're having those issues there, or do you think that it's much
I,
milder there than in the big city? Well, don't want to say the big city, you know what I mean.
it's a little milder, but it's the same. We still deal with the same issue. Now, I don't know whether you remember Ernie Chambers is one of our longtime state senators here. He's been
Hmm.
involved in the civil rights movement for years. But as far as the climate here, we did have a lot of. We had one of our person was killed here about about a couple of weeks ago when they were demonstrating downtown, and
Hmm.
one of the guys came out, said he was protecting his store, and so the people had told him not to just leave him alone, but one of the old men came out and attacked the young man and pushed him down. And so the young man got up and jumped on his back. And then the white son got out and shot the young man and killed him. And so what happened after that has been it's been pretty rough, because after they arrested the young man, arrested the old man, they let him loose and said the shooting was justifiable. And so we're dealing with that issue right now because
Hmm.
the community got very upset about that. And so we're dealing with that issue right now because they let him off. However, now they're going to the grand jury because so many people was outraged that he got off when he started the thing anyway. And then after that, the city put him out of. They revoked his license for downtown, so they sort of they sort of took care of that piece, but still he's still out. They
Yeah.
let him out of jail with no charges. Can you imagine us shooting
Yeah,
somebody?
the other way around, no, that
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't He wouldn't get out just like that. And see, these are the things. This is why I like doing my show. I like the grassroots efforts of the show because that's something that we don't hear on CNN.
Mhm.
That's something we don't hear on MSNBC. So we only hear these things when we talk to people, the average everyday person that can
Mhm.
give us information about what's happening on the streets because listening to CNN and MSNBC and Fox and all these other stations, you would think that okay, well, all the protests and everything kind of settled down because they're not covering it anymore. But now listening to you and to also other people, I start to hear more of the things that's happening around the country and start to realize that we still need to protest. We need to vote. We need to get out because one of the things I always tell people too, going back to your story, with the shopkeeper, um, the reason why he's able to get out is because the district attorney or state attorney or whoever
That's
didn't
right.
see the value in the person's life that he
That's it.
took.
That's
Exactly.
it. And so
So
he got so much. The attorney got so much pressure. So they had to call a grand jury. That's the only reason. If the community hadn't came in outrage, it would have been over. But now,
now now going back to that, still that state attorney still doesn't see the value in the life that he took, but he sees the value in the votes that he's going to lose. That's the difference.
there you go. Yeah.
That's it. It's a little
So we have to realize the difference. So just because he went ahead and filed the charges doesn't mean that we don't vote him out. We still have to vote him out
That's right.
because because he still didn't see the value in the life that he
that's
took.
right.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
you know so these are things that I like to talk to people about, and I definitely enjoy talking to you guys about these things because I want to talk more about some of the stuff that you guys are doing as well, and maybe Barbara can write a book on some of these things because one of the problems is we wait till our children get to be 16, 17 years old to start talking to them about injustices, but by then they've already seen it, and not only have they
Yeah.
seen it, but they've been brainwashed into thinking that it's normal and it's okay.
Yes. See, right
So,
now, I'm teaching a
mhm,
class to change the narrative how we look at black and brown boys. So
mm,
that is so important because our black males have some difficulty coming through the system. I use myself as an example, so it makes a difference. And then just talking to school teachers, making sure that they understand those differences, can make all the
right.
difference in the world.
And that's the thing too, because I mean, we look at the injustices that are happening, and we have to realize our part that we play in some of it by perpetuating some of it. And let's go back to school teachers. You'll see some teachers that would say, "Oh, I don't want to go teach over in the hood. Those bad kids." Well, if we're saying that about our kids,
Yeah,
you know, then the
exactly.
then the white person is going to sit and say, "Well, wait a second. Well, the black person saying that they don't want to go. Well, hell, I don't want to go
Yeah,
either."
yeah. See, that's where I want to be.
but we have to realize that our kids might act a certain, and all kids act that way.
Yeah.
All kids. We just
Mhm.
excuse behaviors of other kids. Oh, well, boys will be boys, or oh, they're just going through a phase. But when it's our kids, it's like, oh my God, that's so terrible. No, it's the same behavior in all the
That's
kids.
that's right.
But we really have to start to realize that the system is more harsh on our kids than on others. And we've seen it time and time and time again where kids that have a fight in school are treated worse than kids who actually bring a weapon to school or whatever, just
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
so we see so many different things. Um, but those are all ideas for you, Barbara.
Yeah. All right. Get to right now.
I'm telling you, you have time because you're retired, right?
That's right. That's
And you
right.
can't go anywhere because of the COVID-19.
Right. So
No, she just
I'm busy.
she just send me to the store. She'll stay in. She'll send me.
See, there you go. There you go. So we should be seeing a few more books coming out. We should, we should be seeing at least another two books coming out before the pandemic is over. Hey,
Well,
you could actually write one about the pandemic.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
How does it
But that
affect
gives
children?
Yes.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
That there we go. That gives me the third book to come up with. Yeah. All right.
But I definitely would like to chat with you guys again about some of the things, especially some of the civil rights things, because I really enjoy bringing those things to our viewers. I think that there's a lot that's not taught in school. There's a lot
Yeah.
that our parents can't teach us because they didn't learn it. So
That's right.
what we have to do is we have to be the storytellers. So you tell your story, the next person tell their story, so on and so forth, and we start to bring it together. It's almost like ancestry.com or any one of them. Your DNA matches with another person's DNA and then matches with another one. Well, the same with the stories, because you're in Omaha, Nebraska, but your story of Tuskegee is going to match with another person's story as well. Um, for example, a lot of people still don't know about the Tuskegee Airmen. They
That's
don't know
right.
about the Tuskegee experiment. They don't know about all these different things that just go on right in that little town of Tuskegee.
Exactly.
So that's where we all put our little piece of the puzzle, and then we start to realize the big picture. You
That's
know.
right.
So those are things, and maybe maybe that's something that you could put together as well. I don't know if you want to, Mr. Freeman, if you're, I don't know if you want to put together something like that, and that would be great for young boys all over the country. I think what you're doing in Omaha is great, but there's a lot of kids all over this country that need you and need what you're doing.
I understand.
You got those. I mean, let's look at Chicago, for example. And I don't want to pick on the people from Chicago. I love Chicago. I've been there before. I love it. It's great. By the way, the museums in Chicago are free too, just like in Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But what's going on? What the crime level in South Chicago? The crime level in Chicago is it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
So the young boys need you to they need you up there, and if they can't get you in person, they can get you online.
Mhm.
Let's make that happen.
All right. All right.
That is your homework assignment, Mr.
No,
Freeman.
I got a homework assignment. Well, thank you so much for allowing my wife an opportunity to talk. I really
Mhm.
appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I appreciate what you're doing for the kids, and it's my pleasure to have you on the show.
Well,
All
thank you
right.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I'll talk to you guys later, all right?
All
Okay, you
right.
take care.
Okay, you too. All right,
All
bye.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
So, guys, I mean, we had Barbara Freeman on here, and then we had a surprise guest of her husband, and it was awesome because we got we got information from him, from her. We got so much information, and there's so much that you guys can do. Look. Here's the thing: this pandemic creates opportunities for a lot of people. We can sit down and we can write books, we can do podcasts, we can do web shows, we can do so many different things to get information out. We can You can create masks and make money from that. You can. There's so many opportunities. I mean, when I hear people say I don't know what to do, it baffles me because we know what to do. We just don't want to step out and do it. So that's why I definitely applaud, Barbara for what she's doing for her books. Because a lot of people, and I tell you, I wrote a book years ago and I've never published it. And people keep telling me, oh, you should self-publish. You should. And I didn't do it. I really need to do it, but I don't know. I mean, I'll definitely do it. I'm gonna tweak it and bring it back to where it should be. For now, and then I'll publish it. You guys should be seeing it soon. We'll look out for it. I've been saying that for a long time, I know, but I'm gonna now. I have time to do it. So anyhow, Julia says Chicago is a great city, beautiful city. I need to go back for Taste of Chicago too, because that's if you guys aren't familiar with Taste of Chicago, you should check it out. You go there. I don't know how they're gonna do it now with the social distancing, but you go and it's like the whole park. I believe it's in Grant Park, if I'm not mistaken. And the whole park is shut down. And it's just like samples of food. It's great. It's awesome. Right over by Buckingham Fountain, which is the fountain you see on the beginning of Married with Children. Well, Al Bundy, yeah. Julie says the harvest is ripe. Our children need you. Yes, sir, Mr. Freeman, they need you. So again, guys, let's go ahead and make something happen. All right, we have no excuse. God has shut down the world so that we can do what we need to do. It's almost like when you need to cross the street and the crossing guard shuts down the street and stops traffic on both sides and allow you to just walk across, whether you want to hop, skip, jump, run, whatever you want to do just to get across. That's what God did. He shut down the street so that you can do what you need to do. All right. You have opportunities out there. They're right in front of you. Please, let's make this happen. Let's do this. We cannot keep saying, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm broke. I'm this, I'm that. We can't keep saying that. Let's do this. All right. All right, guys. So, as always, it's been fun having you guys on the show. Check out my website, lunchtimetalkwithsteve.com, and you can buy Barbara's book from there. It's right on the link. It's just click on it and boom, there you go. It'll ship to you in just a few days from Amazon. So just go right to lunchtimetalkwithsteve.com. Click on Mirror. All right. As always, if you guys see someone that needs help them out, because later on it could be you that need help. All right. If you see that they don't have a way to get to the food bank or to get to wherever, to the store, help them out. If you don't want to take them in your car, get the food or get whatever they need and bring it to them. Call and check up on someone that you haven't seen in a long time or you haven't heard from in a long time, because you never know. I mean, you may be that one person that they wanted to hear from. You may have that kind word for them. All right. So anyhow, you guys take care of yourself, take care of each other, do a random act of kindness for a stranger. All right. Peace, people. See you tomorrow.